The exact moment neuroscientists mapped the 86 billion neurons in your brain, they still had absolutely zero idea why a stubbed toe actually hurts.
They can track the electrical signal traveling up your leg at 120 meters per second, but the subjective sensation of wanting to throw your coffee across the room remains a complete scientific ghost.
Science can explain how light enters the eye, bounces off the retina, and translates into visual data, yet it cannot explain why seeing a brilliant red sunset feels like anything at all.
Hard problem of consciousness strikes again. We have spent countless hours dissecting the brain as a biological machine, treating it like a very squishy computer that just happens to be hallucinating our reality.
We poked at integrated information theory, suggesting consciousness is just maths. We looked at global workspace theory, which treats your mind like a tiny theater where only the loudest thoughts get the spotlight.
We even explored the brain as a prediction engine, constantly guessing what the world looks like and only updating when it bumps into something solid like a glass door.
Yet none of these frameworks answer the core question of who is actually experiencing the prediction. The biological machinery is there, the information is integrating, but the silent witness behind the eyes remains entirely hidden.
Which brings us to a massive structural roadblock in human knowledge. If we cannot figure out how our own awareness works, how on earth are we supposed to decode the rest of the universe?
This is precisely where the conversation has to shift. The mystery of consciousness is not ending. It is simply demanding a larger arena. We must now merge this biological puzzle with the grandest pursuit in physics, the theory of everything.
Physicists have spent decades hunting for a single, elegant equation that unites quantum mechanics with general relativity. They want to tie the erratic behavior of subatomic particles to the massive gravitational pull of black holes.
But they keep treating consciousness like an annoying smudge on their telescope. They divide the universe into the system being observed and the observer doing the looking, whilst completely ignoring the observer.
Cannot build a theory of everything if you leave out the only mechanism we have for experiencing everything. The author Emmett Pintley tackles this exact friction in the 2025 book Iris, A Journey Through the Unknown in Pursuit of the Ultimate Truth.
The name Emmet literally translates to truth in Hebrew, which is a rather bold standard to set for oneself in publishing a book.
A standard the book attempts to meet by throwing out the rigid boundaries between disciplines. Pintley argues that you cannot find the ultimate truth using only equations. You have to weave mathematics and science together with mythology, philosophy, and spirituality.
Sounds like mixing oil, water, and perhaps a bit of dry ice just to see what happens. But the premise is entirely sound. If reality is a unified whole, our methods of understanding it should not be strictly segregated into university departments.
Think of the universe as an enormous tapestry. Physics is busy studying the individual threads, trying to determine their tensile strengths and color composition.
Meanwhile, philosophy is standing back, asking why the tapestry was woven in the first place, and spirituality is wondering who the weaver is. Iris suggests you need all three perspectives simultaneously to see the actual picture.
The book dives into concepts like simulation reality and higher dimensions. If we cannot explain consciousness biologically, perhaps we are looking at the wrong layer of reality.
If you are playing a video game, you do not look for the player inside the game code. The player exists outside the system, simply using the avatar to interact with the digital world.
Pintley's exploration of higher dimensions suggests our subjective experience might be bleeding over from a layer of reality we cannot measure with our current three-dimensional instruments.
Theoretical physicists are already comfortable with invisible dimensions. String theory requires up to 11 dimensions just to make the maths work. Most of them curled up so tightly, we cannot perceive them.
If physicists are allowed to invent 8 invisible dimensions just to balance an equation, philosophers should be allowed to suggest consciousness operates on a level we have not yet detected.
The friction between these camps is legendary. The scientific establishment often treats spiritual or philosophical frameworks as fuzzy poetry, whilst mystics view reductive physics as a bit like trying to understand a symphony by analyzing the chemical composition of the violins.
Both sides are missing the forest for the trees. A true theory of everything, as Pintley outlines, must account for the physical laws governing a falling apple and the internal emotional state of the person watching it fall.
History teaches us that our certainties are always temporary. We used to think the Earth was the center of the universe. We thought atoms were solid, indivisible little billiard balls until we smashed them open and found a chaotic swarm of probability.
We believed space and time were absolute, a fixed stage where events played out. Then, Einstein came along and proved they bend, warp, and stretch depending on how fast you are moving.
Consciousness is clearly waiting for its own Einstein. The biological approach has mapped the brain beautifully, but it has not found the ghost in the machine.
Perhaps the ghost is not in the machine. Perhaps the machine is in the ghost. Several non-dual philosophies, which Iris touches upon, suggest consciousness is the fundamental fabric of reality, and matter is just what consciousness looks like when it slows down.
That flips the entire scientific paradigm on its head. Instead of dead matter miraculously waking up to form a thought, the universe is inherently awake, and physical forms are just temporary expressions of that awareness.
It sounds radical, but quantum mechanics has been hinting at something similar for a century. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrates that particles behave differently when they are being observed.
The mere act of measuring a quantum system forces it to pick a definite state. Prior to observation, it exists as a wave of pure probability. The observer is not separate from the experiment. The observer collapses the wave function.
If human observation alters the behavior of fundamental particles, you cannot possibly construct a theory of everything without making human observation a central pillar of the math.
This is the transition point. We are moving from the biology of the brain to the architecture of the cosmos. Iris challenges us to stop viewing these as two separate investigations.
Pintley intertwines the mysteries of faith, morality, and soul purpose with the rigid structures of science. Morality is not just a social construct, it could be a reflection of the interconnected nature of this underlying reality.
If we are all expressions of the same fundamental consciousness, harming another person is literally harming a localized version of yourself. Suddenly, ethical frameworks have a basis in theoretical physics.
That sort of cross-pollination between ethics and physics is exactly what makes the pursuit of a unified theory so thrilling. It is not just about writing a neat equation on a chalkboard, it's about redefining human existence.
We have dismantled the brain, analyzed attention, parsed out emotional processing, and hit the wall of subjective experience. The next chapter demands a wider lens.
We have to ask how space, time, matter, and mind weave together into a single tapestry. We must journey through the unknown in pursuit of that ultimate truth.
The mystery of consciousness has not been solved. It has simply unlocked the door to a much larger room.
A room where alien gods, simulation realities, and the very fabric of existence are up for debate.
To understand the universe, we clearly have to understand ourselves first, and this exploration is just getting started.
If you found this conversation valuable, send the link to a friend who loves debating the nature of reality.
20 years in the making. Iris, A Journey Through the Unknown, explores theories of everything. Simulation reality, higher dimensions, alien gods, consciousness, miracles, and soul purpose. Uncover the Ultimate Truth. Get your copy now.